This podcast replay is brought to you by Moodius Dental. They offer same-day dentistry with the latest CEREC technology. Take advantage of your insurance benefits for 2019 before the year runs out and they're all gone. Call 305-821-0231 or moodiusdental.com.
We promised you we're going to talk a little NBA with Kurt Helin from Pro Basketball Talk. You can follow him on Twitter like I and so many others do, at Basketball Talk. Kurt, good morning in your case, afternoon in mine, but good morning in your case. How you doing, my brother?
I'm doing good. How you doing, sir?
I am doing great. I got a really important question for you. Who is the biggest freak right now, Lamar Jackson or Luka Doncic?
That's
a good one, huh?
Man.
That's a good one, huh?
Both of them in their second year. But I mean, who saw? I think we all thought both of them would be good, but man, they've exploded. And I was watching the Rams game for a while last night, as long as I could before their uniforms blinded me, and I thought, okay, here's the chance for the Rams to kind of get right and show their defense is back and do. I mean, they just got smoked by how good they're playing right now. And on the flip side, man, Doncic is. I mean, we haven't seen numbers like this since 20-year-old LeBron. Like, he has been that level of impressive in his second year.
Yeah, no, it's been great. It's been great for my fantasy team, obviously, because I own him as a keeper.
Smart.
Oh, yeah. No, it's funky because in our league, you can only keep them in their first 3 years. So I spent my second-round draft pick last year on Luka Doncic, and obviously it's paid off in a big-time way. And I'm happy because I get to keep him one more year. And guess who I got this year in the second round? Ja Morant. How about that, baby? Woo! Back-to-back years. Huh?
Yeah, he's looked so good. He's so athletic. He's so more. He's much more fluid too, and just able to set guys up. It was when you talk to scouts, they were like, it was a little hard to judge what he was going to look like in the NBA because over at Murray State, he had to do everything. They were like, the first thing you thought was, man, the rest of these guys stink. The rest of these guys are, he's great. For an NBA scout, they're like, the rest of these guys are just not good enough. They're not even great good college players, and he's got to just absolutely carry the load. But what's going to happen when he's got, it could go one of two ways, right? Like,
right.
He could struggle when he gets around good players because he's not used to this, and he's not going to share the ball, and he's not going to have the right mindset. But he does, and he's got a great work ethic. He's put in the effort, and unfortunately, by the way, he did not get injured last night.
Yes, he was able to come back. Yeah. He was able to come back in the second half, which was very good for them and for my fantasy basketball team. Now, getting back to Luka. And we're kind of out of the big three era now, right? It's all the big two era now. And with Porzingis getting healthier and looking better, do they have enough of the big two and around them to make some noise in the Western Conference? We don't look at them as the Clippers and the Lakers, but how far off and what does Dallas need to do to get there?
They're not there yet. Their defense is still pretty. I mean, they have the best offense in the NBA right now, but their defense is still pretty average. Obviously, if they're going to really get serious, they've got to be better. And Porzingis has got to be better. He started to show it. It's not a surprise, by the way. It's like he didn't play for 20 months. You had to think that this wasn't going to be, hey, walk right back in, start playing like I did in New York. How good he can be has always been. How close he can get to what the ceiling is for him has always been a question because he has the potential to be phenomenal, but there was a lot of concerns in New York that he was really a number two, not a number one. Well, in Dallas, that's fine. They got, Doncic is the number one. It's not even close. But, where he can be as a number two, there's flashes from him as a shooter and as a shot blocker, but it's not consistent yet. He's got to get a little better. They probably have to add some depth, but they've been getting good play around them from veterans and young guys. So I like that the way that team is built. I think they make the playoffs. It's just in the West. If you get in at the 6th seed, you're probably you're probably supposed to be one and done, but there's so many really good teams at the top of the West. It's really going to be hard to move through. There's three, maybe four just elite teams up there.
I'm with you. Of course, Kurt Helin from Pro Basketball Talk joining us here on the program. You can follow him on Twitter at Basketball Talk. The NBA changes. What do you think about either the shortened season, the in-season tournament, and then the play-in games for the back end of the playoff teams? Those three changes. Personally, for me, I like it, actually. I think as a fan, I think it's going to add a little something to it. What do you agree and disagree with?
I just in a practical terms, I think the playoff stuff might get done pretty quickly. That one, there seems to be some buy-in. Reseeding the Final Four so that, in theory, you do a better job of getting your top two teams into the finals and on the biggest stage. Which has happened a few times, but is also missed a few times in recent years. And then the play-in stuff seems to have interest and some momentum. It's an extra. It's not hard to sell the owners on potential extra night or two of gate revenue. It's that kind of thing works for them. So that I imagine gets through. There's been some pushback on the other stuff. The shortening of the season by 4 games might happen, but the mid-season tournament teams are just not. It might pass, but they're just not that motivated. And I think that's ultimately what the question is. Like, what's in it for the teams? Are they going to treat this any differently than? I mean, if you're the Clippers or the Lakers, are you going to be like, yeah, I'm not going to rest Anthony Davis because this is a potential, tournament game? No, you're going to rest Anthony Davis. The plan is to use regular season games between Thanksgiving and Christmas as the round robin portion of that, and then you have teams advance to what would be an 8-team or 6-team or 8-team knockout phase. But those round robin games, I just don't see teams like. You really think Greg Popovich isn't going to sit guys? I don't know what the motivation is, what the excitement level is for teams, because it's just not something. It's not baked into the American sports culture the way soccer is, where the FA Cup is huge, and the Champions League and the other cups that go on over there. All that stuff is just baked into the culture, and it's part of what goes on. It's not that way here. And I'll ask you. For a team, is winning this mid-season tournament going to mean any more to them than, I don't know, winning the Maui Invitational this week?
Well, here's the thing that I was going to tell you. Aren't we? Everything's changing. The NFL is being influenced by college football. The NBA, it plays more like European basketball than ever. Everything's changed more in that sense. And so sometimes we steal things from other things that we think are good ideas. The NFL steals stuff from the AFL back in the day, and the 2-point conversion, all the other things that they came up with, and the 3-point shot from the ABA went to the NBA, right. All this stuff. So maybe European, and soccer is bigger now than ever in this country. We're watching the Premiership, all that. So our viewing and the kids that are growing up, they're now used to watching these soccer tournaments inside that sport, because we're watching it here. Even though those sports are internationally, we're watching it here and we're kind of used to it. I think we're watching everything influence what we do. And I think it's possible that we don't think that way now, but eventually we will, because our basketball wasn't like European basketball for a long, long time. And we looked at it like, no way, dude, that's European basketball. That's not us. We like it physical. We like this. And we have changed completely now. Now our big men are no longer regular big men. They're European big men now. You know what I mean? We don't grow the post guys anymore. That was the American way. We are growing the European guys because it was the European guys that influenced us into big men shooting. So I think all of this is kind of part of the evolution.
Yeah, I buy it. I buy that. I do. I think that Adam Silver said this from the start, which is, if you're going to put in a mid-season tournament, it can't be a 1-year thing. Like, it's going to take time to get traction, and you're going to have to run this for 5 or 6 years minimum before you can really make a decision on it. And I think that's true. I think that it's going to take a while. And I think, by the way, if you're a team, the fan of a team Are the Laker fans going to be excited about this right now? Probably not.
No.
They're a little spoiled. If Orlando got hot in this, had a hot streak during this and played pretty well, and suddenly their team was in that final knockout phase, would their fans be more excited? Probably. I think I can see a path for certain fan bases immediately, and this to grow a little long term. And by the way, the other part of this, and let's not throw this away. The other reason they want to try this is ratings are down, especially early in the season. Playoffs do okay, and that's where the money is really made for the broadcast partners. Broadcast partners were like, don't mess with Christmas. Don't mess with and Christmas Day games. Don't mess with the playoffs. They're like, okay, well, we're hurting early in the season. If we put in this tournament between Thanksgiving and Christmas, do we just generate a little more buzz? And do we get a few more people to watch? And for the record, watch traditional media. Like football, like a lot of things, what everybody's adapting to and struggling to adapt to is just the way games are being consumed right now is very different. And so maybe this helps. And I get, in general, I'm kind of in favor of trying things. Mark Cuban had an interesting point the other day where he's like, I can see dropping, lowering the number of games to keep guys healthy and everything. Like, everybody's for this, but he doesn't want to go below 78 because it becomes
revenue.
It's revenue, and it's also just there's a scarcity argument to be made. Like, things you can charge more for things that are harder to come by. If there's fewer games, there'll be more interest in them. But he doesn't totally buy it. He thinks the year-long media cycle and energy around the league is part of what drives his ticket sales, and he doesn't want to drop it a lot.
I agree. Actually, I think it's genius how the NBA has stolen a page from the NFL because they're the only two leagues that their names are in the news cycle all year long now. You used to have an off season, and you used to laugh at the NFL guys because they lost their off season. Now it's baseball and hockey guys laughing at the basketball and football guys because they never have any time off anymore.
My wife will be happy to tell you that our vacation window is very short because free agency and the buzz around the draft and everything. It is now. It used to be like a couple of days into July and everything slows down, and Summer League was an afterthought. Well, now Summer League's a thing.
Yes.
And free agency runs deep, and interest in it runs deep into July, and there's trades. And so it's late July before we can go anywhere on vacation. And I can go, and with her being a teacher, our window gets really small.
Yeah, no, it's really a whole crazy situation now. So the real question, I know that you've been doing a lot of digging because you are also an investigative reporter. So the real question now that I want to find out is, did the Knicks really offer Richard Jefferson a contract? Yay or nay? What has all that digging that you've done come up with?
They didn't formally offer him a contract. Now, that's the truth. And they can stand there and say, we didn't offer him a contract, and they are correct. That is not how deals get done in the NBA, however. Like, what happens is that the agents get calls from teams, and they're like, hey, we kind of got interest in your guy. Would he want to come to New York? We'd have to be on a minimum deal, blah, blah, whatever the conversation is. The agent probably only got feelers from New York, went to Jefferson. Jefferson was like, yeah, screw that, I'm out. That's probably that. Was there a formal contract ever put on the table? No. But that's very different from the Knicks expressing some interest. And sometimes that interest doesn't pan out. Sometimes it does become, you put out feelers with a few things, and much like your dating life back in the day, you got a few women on the hook before you decide, where you're going to spy. That's sort of, that's sort of how this works. So maybe nothing came, but my guess is that that's the only team that was calling at that point.
I was pre-herpes, so it was a few hundred women back in those days, okay?
Exactly.
Hey, by the way, what's going to happen to Fizdale? Are they just torturing him? Is that what they're doing right now? It's just like it's like media water torture is what they're doing to him right now, a slow kill or something, because it's so ridiculous to have any kind of expectations for that roster. It's just it's so Knicks for them to just bungle this publicly the way they have.
You just nailed it. It's not that anything's terrible there. I can pick apart some of the stuff Fizdale's doing, but mostly it's just a bad roster. The problem was going into this season thinking, look, Were Knicks fans thinking, hey, maybe we can make the playoffs? Yeah, some were. And by the way, I don't really have a problem with fans thinking that because every fan, you should be overly optimistic. But they clearly sold this as a front office to Dolan. They clearly went to the owner and said, man, no, we got to shut up the playoffs. It's going to be a good team. When objectively, it was obvious they were not going to be a good team. They were going to be awful. So that setting up those expectations was the problem. They actually have played better since that injury. Since that press conference and stuff. They've had a little run. So I think that saved his job for now. But they're not a good team, and they are going to struggle again, and they are going to be bad, and Fizdale is going to end up being the fall guy. I'm not even sure he makes it to the All-Star break. If he does, he probably gets through the season, but I'd be shocked if he were back next year. Like, it's just a matter of when now. And if you're doing when, and you know you're going to do when, the question becomes, is the situation so poisonous, or can you go get somebody who's your next guy right now? If you know who you want, then just make the trade or change right now. You might as well if you really know who you want. I'm just not sure who they think they're going to get that's going to who's out there that's going to change that culture right now, because the problems start way above the coaching level.
Yeah, and it's not like great coaches are going to line up to take that job, knowing the buffoonery that's above them. Right.
Coaches with options, and Fizdale will be the last one. Fizdale was a coach with options who took that job on the premise, by the way, they deny this. They're like, no, we're looking like the Nets, and we don't want to do a slow rebuild. That is not what they sold. They sold, hey, we think you can help us recruit. He is popular with players. Fizdale is well liked by guys from Miami, and there's a good rep with him among players. You can help us go get the Durants and Kyrie Irving. That was always the target. They were always trying to do what the Lakers did, and they just whiffed.
Crazy stuff as always. All right, Kurt Helin from Pro Basketball Talk. Biggest surprise so far in the NBA, my brother. The Nets, who are still with a winning record, even though no Durant and even Kyrie's missed several games. The Phoenix Suns, who will have the ace seed right now in the Western Conference. The youngins have actually done a half-decent job. Or our beloved Miami Heat, who are 12-4 and in second place of the Eastern Conference. Biggest surprise.
I would say the Miami Heat. I thought Miami was going to be a decent team, a good team. I didn't think they were 12-4 good. I didn't think they were going to come together like this. I didn't think. Who saw Kendrick Nunn play and Tyler Hero playing this big a role right off the bat and being this good? I just
Duncan Robinson, dude. Duncan Robinson. How about that?
Duncan Robinson. Yeah, they keep finding guys and you know what? This is the advantage of having a team that knows I shouldn't say team, an organization that knows who it is and what it wants to do, and builds teams around that style. They go find guys that fit what they want to do, and it really just works for them. And Jimmy Butler fits perfectly with that culture, but it's been more about putting the pieces around him that work. So that has been the biggest surprise. I will add, Phoenix is a close second for me. I thought Phoenix was going to be god-awful again. And they are, like you said, they're hanging around the playoffs. They're going to be hanging around the playoffs most of the season. That's not a bad team. And for my money, Monty Williams is right in the middle of that Coach of the Year conversation for the culture he's starting to establish there.
No Ayton, too.
Yeah. Aiden's been out with 25 games with the number of young guys who got nailed. It's one thing if you see Wilson Chandler get nailed with PEDs, because you're like, kind of an older guy trying to hang on. But it's a couple of young guys, including Ayton now, have gotten popped. Which is kind of interesting. Just something it's like kind of something that raises your eyebrows and says something. But they've been able to do it. That's the shocker. Aaron Baines has been so good for them, just so good as a stretch five. Who you were talking about earlier about the bigs who step out. Baines was not that guy. Baines is that guy now, and he can still body inside, and he's been fantastic.
So, Kurt, over the years, we've watched him develop Isaac Austin, make him lose 100 pounds and make him some money, and Eric Murdoch, and then they got Udonis Haslem out of nowhere and made him into a player, and Keon Dooling came here and strained out his career. Tim Hardaway got traded here, was known as selfish and all that, and Golden State kind of straightened everything out here. So we've watched player development. But is it more about player development in their case here and what we've watched here for 20 years under Riley, or is it more bore out of desperation that they had no options pretty much because of their cap situation, and they've basically been saved by these young guys? Because think about it, they had no shooting for a few years now.
Yeah.
They struggled to shoot, and because of Hero, because of Nunn, and because of Duncan Robinson, they are now loaded with shooters because they have a couple of other shooters, plus the 3 young guys you just added. That has made everything in the world, and this team has done a phenomenal job. And plus the 4th guy, Carlos Silva, who doesn't get a lot of pub, but he is like a little Udonis Haslem. He does a lot of the dirty work. Another young guy helping out.
Yeah, necessity is the mother of invention, right? I mean, they were absolutely desperate. They were trying to find guys, but they found guys that fit what they were trying to do, and then were able to bring them along in a way that few organizations do. I mean, the Spurs have been great. Utah's been surprisingly good at, the Joe Ingles and Rudy Gobert's and developing guys, but the Heat are still right up there as one of the gold standards for this. And like I said, what they go find are, hey, Kendrick Nunn works hard, and he's shown a little bit in the G League, and I wonder what we can do with him. And, it's such a smart pickup, and it's those kind of examples of guys who are just workers who they bring in, who fit the culture. But I think it's a little bit of both. I mean, they were up against it, but they were able to go and be themselves this year and start cracking down a little bit, right? They did let some stuff go the last couple of years. They probably weren't as there weren't guys held out of training camp quite the same way. I mean, that was kind of the buzz. I don't want to say they went soft, but they weren't as diligent as they had been. That ended after last season, and they were back at it this season. And I think that's also part of it. Like, they're just back to being who they are.
It's good stuff as always. What are you guys working on at Pro Basketball Talk, my brother, so folks can check it out there at NBC Sports?
We've got a few things in the pipeline coming up, probably next week at this point, because nobody's reading anything this week. But one of them will be. We were talking about him earlier. I'm going to see it working on a piece for early next week on the Dallas Mavericks, which is just one of the more interesting stories in the league. Not just Luka Doncic, but how that whole. Talk about another organization that's kind of come together really fast and made some smart gambles that paid off.
Okay, I like it. And by the way, does your wife ever hold up the phone to chat with people when you're at a game riding like Lala did for Melo? No. My kids are a little older now. When they were younger and I had to travel, we did some FaceTiming. My kids are all 11 and a couple of teenagers. They don't want to talk to me when I'm here. Let alone when I'm on the road. Well, they finally got their win, Portland, brother. They got off the schneid, as they say, and Melo actually had a good game that night.
Yeah, I would say Melo did play well, but not so coincidentally, they won when that Damian Lillard guy came back. Turns out he's pretty good.
Yeah, that always helps, that Lillard guy. He might just make it in this league. You never know.
He might stick.
Yeah. Follow him on Twitter at Basketball Talk and catch his work. He is Kurt Helin at ProBasketballTalk.com. Kurt, as always, you're a stud, my man. Thank you for taking some time.
Take care, buddy.
You got it, baby. There you go, the great Kurt Helin, man. Yeah, and Portland did get their win yesterday. They found the first win under Melo, but he's right. Lillard, it was Dane time, and he came back and they got it done.
I want to say he had some nice stats.
Who, Melo? No, Melo played well yesterday. He actually had a really good game yesterday. But they stunk it up against Cleveland on Saturday or Sunday. I thought that was going to be their first win because it's Cleveland, and they ended up losing to Cleveland, dude. It's bad in Portland, man. It's really, really bad. But he did play well yesterday. You got to give him credit when it's due.
Are you saying he's staying strong?
Yes, he's staying strong. Yes, or strong. Yeah. No doubt.